It's time for an update on this race to the White House. I'm Mike Calabrese of the Action Network, here to break down the latest in political polling data as well as movement in the overseas betting markets as it relates to the general election this November. Now, President Biden has suffered setback after setback in the past 2 weeks. It started with his disastrous performance in the debate against former President Trump. Now, right-wing media wasted no time eviscerating Biden, pointing out every stumble and gaffe during that debate. What was surprising, however, was the lukewarm defense offered by power players on the left. Advisors, elected officials, and major donors have done little to protect Biden from this onslaught of criticism. That is very telling. Even prominent fundraisers come out directly against him, including George Clooney, who had just recently raised $30 million for him at a star-studded gala in mid-June. He goes ahead and pens an op-ed in the New York Times calling for him to step out of the race altogether. So with all of this negativity, these clouds forming over Biden, what does he do? He goes ahead and hosts his own press conference at the end of last week. And while there were some mixed reviews, the highlight, unfortunately, for President Biden came during a misstep in which he referred to Ukraine's President Zelensky as President Putin. Now, the latest batch of political polling data confirms what we already know as an electorate. Trump is pulling away in this race. He's clearly in the driver's seat at this point. Polls from the Washington Post, ABC News, Redfield and Wilton, and Marist College all have Trump leading by at least 1 point. Morning Consult, the Pew Research Center, and The Economist have Trump leading by 2 to 3 points. And Emerson College actually lists Trump up by 4 in their latest batch of polling. Speaking of Emerson College, its July 8th poll featured a handful of hypothetical head-to-heads should Biden step down. These are going to become more meaningful in the coming weeks, and I anticipate all major polling centers to go through and to conduct research on this topic. Now, as it relates to the Emerson College poll, Trump is leading Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, by 8, Vice President Harris by 6, Whitmer and Buttigieg by 10 points each. Other interesting hypotheticals include Bernie Sanders just 6 points back, as well as former Vice President and presidential nominee Al Gore by 5 points. Now let's close things out with the betting market's reactions to this overseas, because what's interesting is that these markets are dynamic. The political polling data can take between 5 and 10 days to collect, to be able to filter and to present to the public, whereas betting markets are moving hour to hour, and they're quicker to react to large events like debates and press conferences. Well, after months of Trump hovering in the minus 110 to minus 140 range, we've seen overseas books begin to price him prohibitively. Trump now sitting in that minus 175 to minus 200 range. As for President Biden, books are struggling to offer numbers high enough to entice bettors. You can find him anywhere in the European markets at plus 375 all the way up to plus 820. And there's a belief that he could be headed for 10 to 1 or longer odds in the coming weeks, particularly as his latest press conference proved to be ineffective. For more updates on the race to the White House, be sure to check out Action Network's social channels on TikTok, YouTube, and other social media.